We're here today to talk about the new Arrow 4K UHD release of the 1999 science fiction horror action adventure shark killer movie, Deep Blue Sea. Now, as you can see, this is a limited edition Arrow release that is one of their extra thick releases. Now, like in comparison to kind of their normal limited edition releases, here's a couple of them, like Friday the 13th and My Stepmother is an Alien. As you can see, they're significantly thinner, but they have slipcovers. These are still fairly impressive, and I dig them. But this is more in the vein of I did a review on this recently, Demolition Man and Donnie Darko. But it's more along the lines of this type of thickness. It actually measures exactly the same. But if you would do me a favor and go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. In 1999, when this film first came out, I didn't really see it then. I have seen it on, and I think I've seen some scenes from it on when it was on TV, and you know, or I was at somebody's house and they were watching it. But it never really seemed... It seemed like a kind of a bad movie to me, and not that I really like a lot of bad movies, but I think the thing that really stood out to me was the CGI sharks. Recently, I've gotten significantly more tolerant of the bad CGI from this era. Now, some of the CGI isn't bad, but some of it is. But I've gotten more tolerant of it and more accepting, and I've been able to look at some of these movies for their merits instead of just saying, "Oh, that's a bad movie. It's got shitty looking CGI sharks in it." Deep Blue Sea was directed by Renny Harlin. Renny Harlin is known for his action films like Die Hard 2. And this film Deep Blue Sea does have a lot of action in it, but known for action films like Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger. This is a very excellent recent steelbook release, but also, more importantly, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And he also directed The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is getting an Arrow release here in the near future. They've already released artwork, and they've announced a release date is here in the next few months. But this film, it's kind of a mixture of a few different type of genres. Yes, it is a killer shark movie, but it is more leaning towards science fiction, not like Jaws, for instance, which there is a killer shark in it, but this shark is just kind of a real shark. But here, these sharks are having genetic testing on them, so it makes them significantly more dangerous. But this film is also kind of an underwater sea movie in the kind of vein of something like, but not quite like The Abyss, but closer to films like Deep Star 6 and Leviathan. But these films take place in an underwater station, which is on the bottom of the ocean floor. This one's in an underwater station, but it's like the top of it is kind of like a ship or like a carrier, like a boat. It's really more like a boat, and everything that's underwater is attached to it, and it seems like the lowest floor of it's probably about 60 foot deep. But it has a similar things happen in this film that happen in these. There's a storm that happens that causes some issues later into the film, but I really like these type of films. I like these underwater sea adventure films. So and a lot of them came out in the same year when The Abyss and all of them came out, but I really like every one of them that I've seen, and this one as well. I really gave this one a better chance with this new 4K UHD transfer. And I gotta say, I really like what they've done with it, and I have a greater appreciation for the film. So let's get into the plot of the film. There's these scientists on this station, which is called Aquatica. That's the name of the station, which is a cool name for the station. I like it. But there's these scientists who are doing testing on these sharks, and they're trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. They're experimenting on mako sharks, and they're trying to take this fluid from the brain, and they have a plan to come up with a kind of a way to bring cells of the brain back to life. That's what they're hoping to accomplish here. The very first scene of the film, a shark has escaped and it attacks a boat full of teenagers who are partying. Luckily, none of them get killed, and then Thomas Jane's character Carter, who's kind of he's kind of for hire mercenary type of character who works for this ship. He comes out and he shoots the shark with a tranquilizer bolt. So he's kind of your badass male hero type of character in this film, though the characters are treated differently than they normally are in a pretty awesome way. That's one thing I can say about this film. The character development on several of the main characters is very well done. And the actors do a very good job of portraying these characters. But this shark incident causes a lot of trouble. So the shareholders get a little concerned over all this shark attack stuff. So they they're like, maybe this isn't such a good idea. But so they send in their highest executive, played by Samuel L. Jackson. He's the man, and he's the one who's probably sunk the most money into all of this. Now, the character of Franklin is also in the past, which kind of sets him up to be kind of a hero. In the past, he went on a hike in the Swiss Alps, and there was an avalanche, and he was able to save a lot of the members of the group. So that he's kind of, in the past, has been a hero. And he's set up kind of here at the beginning as being the main character of the film. He seems to be kind of a fish out of water. He comes in to this Aquatica station for the first time, and he experiences seeing the way the station runs as you would walking into it, as somebody new walking into it. So he's set up as the protagonist, but I think most people already know that there's something more going on than that, and there's something pretty surprising that happens to him, which we'll get into that here shortly. So the main character is probably the main character. This is a little bit of an ensemble thing, but Saffron Burrows plays Dr. Susan McAllister, and she's one of the people. Her and Stellan Skarsgård's character, Jim Whitlock, they're doing the scientific research on the sharks, and they've actually they kind of broke a few laws here. What they've decided to do is enlarge the shark's brain, and they've done some pretty heinous things to these sharks that causes the sharks to be much smarter, but they know that everything's about to be shut down, and they're trying to make this research go faster. And of course that causes the main problem of what happens in the film. Now obviously I'm going to have to drop some spoilers here, so be warned if you haven't seen the film. This is a 1999 film, and it is an action film. It is a lot of fun. I think it's well plotted out, and the action sequences are quite nice with the sharks, even though some of them are mechanical, but there's a lot of CGI involved that looks some of it looks a little hokey, some of it looks okay, but you have to be okay with the CGI sharks. But as far as, we'll talk about the way that the rest of the film looks here in just a minute. But back to the plot. So they're doing this research, and then the shark goes berserk. so before that happens, they actually accomplish what they were set out to do. They found an antidote, or a way to resurrect the brain from a dementia patient, to be able to regrow those dead brain cells, which is pretty awesome. So this does pose a kind of an ethical question: does the end justify the means? On this, and of course the scientists look bad, but they have accomplished something fairly phenomenal. But they, at the same time, they made the sharks very dangerous. They've only got 3 sharks that they've done this to. And what happens, like, after they discover that after they find out that they've discovered the cure, one of the sharks bites off Stellan Skarsgård's Jim Whitlock's arm, and it kind of causes everybody to start panicking. The Thomas Jane's character, he takes out like a shark killing like gun, and he's gonna kill the shark. But Saffron Burrows instead releases the shark back into the water, and he asks her, he's like, "Are you like an idiot, or why would you do that?" So it is a good question of did she make the mistake? In the movie, of course, the movie presents it as a mistake that she made. She released the shark, and then all 3 sharks begin to wreak havoc on the facility, trying to escape. Everybody's life on that vessel, they're in danger. And this is one of those type of films where you got a big group of people, very, very interesting group. And you got some actors like Michael Rapaport in there, and LL Cool J, who's playing like a chef on the boat, and he's a very likable character and quite hilarious in this film. But you've got all these other people, not like a lot of people. They actually send most of their crew home to make it simpler for the film, and not having like a bunch of people. But there's a pretty good bit of people on this station, and they're all in danger once these sharks figure out that they start trying to escape, and they start messing things up on the boat. And a lot of it happens where the they try to get Stellan Skarsgård's character out of there. They have a chopper come in, but there's this big storm happening. And I think if a storm wasn't happening, maybe some of this may not even occur. But a chopper came in, a helicopter, to pick up Stellan Skarsgård's character and on a gurney. And while they're trying to get him, like they accidentally, and this is something else, the helicopter accidentally drops the gurney into the water, and then the sharks get the gurney and they pull it down and pull the helicopter, and the helicopter explodes. So some of this is kind of left up to chance, and it may or may not have happened, but these sharks are pretty smart, and they're trying to get out of the facility and into the deep blue sea. And apparently, from what I've read, there's a different ending that they shot, but they ended up reshooting it because the test audience didn't like it. They thought that the Susan McAllister's character, played by Saffron Burrows, was more of an antagonistic character because she was responsible for letting these sharks, or experimenting on the sharks and then releasing them. So the director originally considered her more of a sympathetic character, and he had this cool kind of idea about this. It's kind of a feminist or sort of ending where Thomas Jane's character, Carter, would be the one typically in a film like this killing the sharks, but they wanted her to kill the last shark. But that doesn't happen. They shot it that way, but then the test audiences said that she shouldn't be the hero because it's her fault. The whole thing is her fault in a way. So why it doesn't make you a hero if it's basically like you make the mistake and then you go and show up and you fix it and you're like, I'm the hero, I saved the day. But it's kind of, I don't have a problem with it. I don't think they should have done. They did a pretty drastic rewrite, and spoilers again. The shark ends up eating her, and it's very clumsily done, that part, because she tries to jump in the water as bait, and then Thomas Jane. The director didn't want Thomas Jane to be the hero either. That was kind of his point. He didn't want to set up that person who should be the hero as the hero. But Thomas Jane's character has the gun or the bow or whatever it takes to kill the shark. It's actually a bolt. They're going to try to like electrocute the shark or blow it up. But he has it in his hand to shoot the shark. But then she jumps in the water like an idiot, and then he has to jump in and try to save her. And he leaves the bolt on the bow up top when he jumps in and try to save her, which he also shouldn't have done. Meanwhile, LL Cool J's chef character comes out and gets it, and he's the one that kind of ends up being the hero at the end, which I thought was a cool touch. I really liked that part of it, but I don't think that she needed to die. I don't think it helped. I didn't necessarily. I disagree too with her being the hero. I like LL Cool J's character being the ultimate hero. He kills two of the sharks in a pretty hilarious way both times, because he's a preacher. He's called the preacher, and he's also like a chef, and he preaches, and he's a very likable character. And a lot of the film deals with him by himself, because he's on a different floor than most of the other characters for most of the movie, and he's got a parrot, and he's trying to escape the sharks on this one floor, and it cuts back and forth between him and the group of people. So a lot of the film has him by himself, and he eventually, about 3/4 of the way through, hooks up with everybody else and becomes part of the group. But it's kind of cool having him by himself like that. But luckily he doesn't get killed. At least it seems like the way it was set up. He gets attacked by the shark and bit by the shark later on, but he unfortunately doesn't get killed. But do you think that might have even killed him though? But he may have originally been killed in the original script. Now, about Samuel L. Jackson's character, who's set up to be the protagonist of the film, everybody knows, or most people know, he gives this exciting speech right in the middle of the film, or maybe a little bit past the midway point, and he's trying to like unite. He's about trying to get uniting everybody together, and people need to stop fighting and get their shit together. And suddenly he finishes his speech. He's like, the first thing we need to do is close up this pond or whatever it is, and then the shark comes out of it and bites him and then goes into the water and then rips him in half. So it was a very shocking moment. I already knew it was going to happen, but I think it was a very shocking moment, especially the way his character is set up. And really, you got the audience on the side of his character, because he's kind of fish out of water character. But it's interesting because he is like a suit, like an executive, but at the same time, the way he's presented very likably, and Samuel L. Jackson really does a really good job of portraying this character and setting this character up to be likable and to be the person who's going to take charge of everything and really fight the sharks, I guess, eventually. But he doesn't. He gets eaten up right in the middle of the film, and it's a pretty awesome scene. Now I've probably said way too much about the plot than I should have, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at this limited edition 4K release. So here's the inside, the outside, and the outside slip. This is a slip cover that goes over this slip box. Very nicely done. Inside of it, we have a poster. This is a double-sided poster. One side's going to have this. This is the original poster, and then this is their new poster. It doesn't match this right here. This is a little bit better. This is their poster that's on the actual. Now, eventually they're going to release this as a standard edition, and this is what you'll get. And this is their artwork for that, and that is also this poster here. There's also included a booklet here, Aquatica, that has some essays, and it has lots of pictures in there about. There's like Thomas Jane's character. It has lots of pictures of the film. There's Samuel L. Jackson down here right before he gets eaten up. But it's a pretty cool booklet, and these limited editions, like with these slip boxes, typically will have a booklet in there. There's LL Cool J with the parrot. There's lots of really good essays in here and a lot of information about the film. And there's also some information about the transfer that we're going to take a read of real quick. Deep Blue Sea has been restored by Arrow Films and is presented in its original aspect ratio of 2:39:1. The film is presented in 4K resolution in HDR10 and Dolby Vision. So it's a very impressive grading here with HDR and the Dolby Vision as well. The original 35mm camera negative was scanned in 4K/16-bit resolution at Warner Brothers Motion Picture Imaging. The film was restored in 4K resolution and color graded at I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but it has a 4K resolution, obviously, but it also mentions that it's been color graded. So the grading may be different than the original release, which I don't have. I don't have a Blu-ray of it, so some people are kind of frown upon that additional color grading, but especially when they try to make it look different than the way it was originally presented. A lot of times with the color grading, they'll take a scene that's like natural lighting or add a little bit of a blue to it to make it look more blue. Sometimes that's what the grading means. Sometimes they'll take it in orange or they make it look more orange. I'm not sure what they've done here, but as far as the way that it looks, I was fairly impressed with it. It was shot on film, and you can see a little bit of grain. You see a pretty good bit of grain actually throughout, but the grain is fairly nicely resolved. And the palettes, I thought the palettes looked very nice. It is you got a lot of the Deep Blue Sea interior. You get a lot of it takes place inside the interior sets on the bottom of Aquatica. Some of it's outside, but I thought it all looked very nice. And even like the natural lighting, when it is natural, it looked very. The skin tones look very natural to me. I thought the detail, and there's some details in. I saw like a sweater one time. You could see the texture of the sweater really good. The texture on the faces. It all looks very nice, and I highly recommend just the 4K transfer of this by itself is fantastic. They did a lot of work on it, and it looks terrific. All right, so let's go ahead and rate this thing. Now, I'm going to give Deep Blue Sea a 3.5-star rating for the film itself. Now, I do have a higher appreciation for it, and I do highly recommend checking this out. It is a lot of fun. It is a great killer shark movie. I do like the characters and the way that they're set up. I do like the way that the characters aren't treated the way that you would expect them to in several instances, and that's really the strengths of this. But there's also strength in the Aquatica station. It's very nice. It's some very nice set design here. Very, very impressive work by the camera work and things. A lot of underwater type of work. Now, you may not like the CGI sharks, but I think that they work for the most part. So you just have to accept it for what it is. And some of the shark work looks really good, but it's the best that they could do. But even now, it's still going to look a little fake with the CGI shark. It would look a lot better now than it does here. But for what it is from 1999, this is a lot of fun. It is a great adventure film, and it is also a horror film, and it's about a bunch of people trapped on a station, much like a film like Deep Star 6, who try to have to get out of there away from the monsters. In this case, this is a real sea monster. The sharks are some man-made or man-modified sharks who are very smart, and they have a plan to try to get out of there. And they have to try to outsmart these people who are scientists, some of them. Anyway, I'm going to get the Arrow release here. as you know, I didn't show you this actually. That was one thing I didn't show you. On the inside of this, there's only a 4K release. Arrow does not put out a Blu-ray typically. Sometimes they will, rarely. But usually if they have a Blu-ray, it's going to be released separately than the 4K. There's also some postcards in here. Here's a shark here with Thomas Jane. On the back it says, "Greetings from Aquatica," and you got some blood. And nothing compares to the taste of fresh seafood on the back and some more blood. And here's the group here. The core group of people who work at Aquatica, plus Samuel L. Jackson's character Franklin. And here you go, you got Thomas Jane and the shark at the bottom coming after him. On the back of this one's, "Come in, the water's great." And there's also there's a card that has nothing to do with the movie. That's an upcoming release. And there is a reverse here. The original poster, this is the original poster with Saffron Burrows at the bottom. But I'm going to give Arrow release, I'm going to give them 4.5 stars for the physical packaging of the release. It's fantastically done. The 4K is terrific. I wish they would include a Blu-ray in these, but they don't typically. It's kind of par for the course. So anyway, if you've seen Deep Blue Sea, let me know what you think about it. And if you've seen this new Arrow release, let me know your thoughts on that as well. If you would, put those thoughts in the comments below. And also like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.